Hello and welcome to Ready, Set, Enjoy. My name is Connor, and this week we're talking about something a little bit different, something we haven't covered on the channel so far, but I think is a really important part of being ready for everyday life, and that is what this channel is all about. And we're talking about information systems, and that might sound super boring, but what it's all about is ensuring that you and your brain are prepared to take on the day by having all of the information, all of the facts, but also all of your emotions and all of your, internal thinking ready to go for what you have to tackle on that given day. And there's a system that I've put in place that I've been using for almost a year now that has been working really well for me. And I've been trying to figure out the best way to tackle all of this for years. I'm talking like 15 years since I was in high school. I always struggled with keeping all of the information that I need in my life straight. I was one of those to-do list app addicts who was constantly switching apps because there was some feature or some shiny thing that never actually resulted in any added productivity. So today I'm going to talk about my system. I'm going to talk about my digital versus analog utility of information and why I need both. So let's get right into it. All right, so starting with a little bit about me and why I have these needs in the first place. I am a software architect. I'm someone who helps design software systems. I work for an American company, even though I'm Canadian. It was actually my company that got acquired by this company back in 2023. And we work on all sorts of different things from cloud networking to security to AI and hardware platforms and all sorts of different stuff like that. Now, I, of course, need to keep a lot of things straight in my head in order to stay organized at work, but I also have a pretty hectic personal life. We have a baby. I have probably too many hobbies between my competitive archery and camping and renovations at the cabin and maintenance that needs to be done around the house and to all my stuff that I own and vehicles and insurance and just regular life stuff. So there needs to be a way to keep track of all of the things that you need to do, all of the reference material that you need to be able to refer back to, and of course, all of the things that go on in your head related to stress, anxiety, and making sure that you can effectively go about your day and not be constantly in a state of panic or worry or anxiety because of how busy life tends to get, because it always kind of does get super busy, doesn't it? So that's me. That's where I'm at. I need a way to tackle work and hobbies and all of the adult life stuff that just happens day to day, week to week, month to month. And I think my system works pretty well. So what is this system? Well, I call it facts versus feelings. And those two things are not necessarily, at war with each other or battling each other, but they are different and they require different organizational systems in my experience. So facts are things that are just true. They are just there. They are things like reference material. What's my insurance policy number? Oh, what's the phone number that I need to call when I need to, get new office supplies? What is the, manufacturer for my fridge and where are all of the warranty, manuals for it? Stuff like that. There's plenty of facts that you have in your life that you need to be able to refer to, and there's things that you need to keep track of: to-do lists, shopping lists, all sorts of different work-related tasks, projects, organization, and all of those things lend themselves really well to digital systems. And that is the facts half of my information system. The feelings half is everything that goes on inside your brain. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be stress and anxiety and all these things. It can be great things. It can be ideas. It can be, sparks of inspiration. But it oftentimes is, oh, my brain is feeling really full. I'm feeling really stressed. I have a lot on my mind. I need to get it out. And I find that digital is not usually the way to go for those types of things. And that's where the analog side of the world is really, really helpful. So facts versus feelings, digital versus analog, that is the basics. And you could probably kind of exit this video right now and probably get, more than 50% of the gist of what I'm trying to get at here. But there is some nuance that I think is important to get into in order to really optimize, and not optimize to the point of, just because you want to feel more productive or whatever, but optimize such that the system gets out of the way and you can get the most utility from the system. It's not necessarily about maximizing your own productivity, because productivity just for the sake of being busy is no good at all, but optimizing the system so that it kind of fades into the background. You don't need to think about the system anymore, so that you can just live your life and not have to worry about it. Okay, so the main thing that's different between the facts and the feelings side of the house is structured versus unstructured. The need for structure when you're dealing with facts and to-do lists and projects and organization is you need to be able to find things. You need to be able to adapt to the changing way that your work or your life is progressing. And you need to be able to automate certain things so that you're not wasting a ton of time moving things around and getting organized for the sake of organization. That's just no fun. Computers are really good at organizing. Computers are really good at doing repetitive tasks. So let the computers do that for you. Now, on the feeling side, on the analog side, I find that having a ton of structure is actually counterproductive, which is why when we go into the journal and what goes in the notebook, you'll see that there is little to no structure, and that is on purpose. You should be able to open this book, and whatever's on your mind, whatever idea you have, whatever stress you want to get rid of, you should be able to just and get it out in there and not have to worry about setting up every page and having a beautiful, Instagram-worthy journal or diary. You're welcome to do that if you want, but you shouldn't feel pressured into doing that. And I found that reducing the amount of toil and extra effort that needs to go into the analog side of things makes it a lot more useful, reduces the amount of just worry and stress that actually goes into maintaining the perfect journal, and just let it be what it is. There's a place for structure and there's a place for freeform, and that to me is the big difference between the digital, the facts, and the analog, the feelings. Okay, so when are you using digital? When are you relying on facts versus when are you going analog? When are you relying on feelings? Well, to me, it's kind of an intuitive choice that is made on a case-by-case basis. For me, anything work-related automatically goes digital. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that, I never have feelings or, need to brain dump about a bad day I had at work or anything like that. But anything to do with getting my job done is digital, because it needs structure. I need to be able to remind myself at certain times. I need to be able to organize things into projects and structures. And it needs to be more or less infinitely flexible. And I find that paper notebooks aren't great for that. Whenever it comes to, at the end of the day or anytime throughout the day where I'm feeling my brain is full, when I'm feeling that I'm, starting to get that afternoon drag, I'm starting to have, worries and stresses that are coming up, this is the place to go. My kind of benchmark for myself is if my brain is feeling full, I empty it onto the page. And if I'm trying to, quote unquote, get shit done because I need to do my job, because I need to stay organized, because I need to keep track of a bunch of different projects, since I'm, technically in charge of 4 or 5 different teams at any given time, then digital is the way to go. Let's hop over to the iPad and take a look at the digital system itself. So I'm going to record right off my iPad screen here, and we will take a look. So this is my digital system. I use Obsidian. It is a pretty popular application. If you've been on YouTube, looking at this kind of thing, note-taking and productivity, you've most definitely seen some videos about it. I'd say Obsidian and Notion are both, quite trendy and popular right now. And honestly, either one will do, but I prefer Obsidian because of the way it stores data locally, the way it has, end-to-end encryption for its sync system, and a couple of other reasons. But this has become pretty core to my workflow, and I've customized it exactly the way that I like. So in the left-hand pane, you'll see whatever main note I'm working on right now. This might be, an idea for a video. This might be some meeting notes. This might be something that I need to, finish for a report or some research, and that's where the majority of my work happens. And then on the right side, it is split between my daily note and the Obsidian graph view. Now, the graph view is probably what makes Obsidian so famous. It allows you to link different notes together to show the groupings between concepts and ideas, and how certain tags relate to your daily notes and other stuff like that. And it shows a really neat visualization of all of that. And then the daily note is probably not unique to Obsidian, but it allows you to organize yourself over time and show what you did on a particular day, and be able to link back to a specific day or time, so that you know when things happened, and just helps add kind of a temporal sense to all of your information. So my daily note, I use a template. It's the same template every single day, and it's come to work pretty well for me. So it starts here with the My Day section. This lets me record little things or link off to things that I've been working on for that day. So for example, I wanted to remind myself that I recorded footage for the Obsidian Journal video, and by using this square bracket notation, you can link between notes. So this creates a link in the graph between today, March 10th, and this note over here, the Obsidian versus Journal note, where I outlined the content for this video, and that creates a nice link between this day and time and the thing that I was doing. The same thing goes for tasks. So say I need to remind myself to edit this video, I'll say edit the Obsidian and Journal video on Thursday, and that will add that to-do item to my overall task system, which exists across the entire Obsidian application. And you can see down here that it comes into the do soon section in my to-do view. Then I have a work-specific section. This is where I put work-related projects and meetings that I happen to be doing on that particular day. So say I need to write some meeting notes for a one-on-one with Johnny from marketing. I can't spell today. This will allow me to actually on the fly create. You'll see if I hold down the command button, it says click to create. I can automatically create this new note right from my daily note, and then jump into a new task that I have to do for that day. So this allows me to take my meeting notes, hello Johnny, and then jump back into my daily note, but ensure that things stay linked across days and across ideas and across people. Now the thoughts section, this is where I link my digital system with my analog system. If I have something that I want to follow up on into the journal later in the day, I can say, I should explore the link between AI and anxiety, or something like that. That might be an idea that I want to write about later in the day. So that goes in the thoughts section. And then at the end of every day, I'll usually on my phone look at the thoughts section in my daily note, and then use that as a starting point for what I might want to write about in my journal that evening. And then I have the to-do view. So this is something that shows me tasks that I have due today or that are overdue. Luckily, I've been productive today, so I don't have any tasks remaining. And then it shows me my due soon so that I can keep up with what needs to be done in the coming days so that I don't get behind on things. So that's the basic structure of my Obsidian layout. And the one thing I'll say about Obsidian is that don't go crazy with plugins. I only have 3 plugins. I have Pin Daily Notes, which allows me to keep that lower right-hand pane updated with my daily note for the day. I have that Tasks plugin, which lets me write to-dos throughout all the different notes in Obsidian and have them referenceable and queryable in those to-do views on my daily notes. And then I also have the Excalidraw plugin. And what this allows me to do is I can create a new drawing in Excalidraw, and this allows me to have a whiteboard that exists within my Obsidian vault, and then I can reference drawings directly in other notes, and I can also embed drawings inside of a note. So if I, for example, come here and I want to create a new drawing and embed it into the active document, just like that, I can create a diagram, Obsidian versus journal, and I can create a nice diagram, and then when I exit out, that diagram will actually get updated in the node itself. So this is a really powerful diagramming tool, and since I'm a software architect designing software, a lot of what I do is diagramming, and this allows me to draft different diagrams and relationship stuff while staying in the flow of my main note-taking software. Now, the last thing that I'll say about Obsidian is how I use tags. So I use tags mostly to denote nouns, so people, places, and things. And literally the tags are person, place, concept. These are ways to organize related things. So if I go back to my one-on-one with Johnny for marketing, I might say, that I met with Johnny, and Johnny will become a new note. Johnny is a person, and Johnny is on the marketing team. And then marketing team becomes its own page. It is a team, and it is a team within Acme Corp. And by creating this team tag, let's see if we can find it somewhere here in you can see the marketing team node in the graph gets attached to the team tag and then Johnny. And so this is a way over time that you can attach different people, places, and things to each other within the graph and start sparking ideas like, oh, I didn't realize that this person was related to this concept. And so I'll create notes around different concepts, like different parts of AI systems and different security concepts and different research topics that I might be looking at for work. And those things get linked together, and it helps me organize my thoughts. So use tags, use them sparingly. Don't create 500 different tags, but really use them to categorize different types of things, because you'll be surprised what kinds of connections come out. Now let's jump into the notebook and see how I treat this quite differently from my digital system. And first off, because I know everyone's going to ask, this is a Leuchtturm 1917 notebook. It's the A5 medium size, and I use a Sharpie S-Gel pen. It is not fancy. It is like $3, but I really like the way that it writes, and I find it really pleasant to use. So let's jump in and see what we do in here. All right, so the notebook itself, there's an elastic on it and there's 2 bookmarks. I use the front bookmark for my current daily page, and I use the back bookmark to go to my reference section, and we'll talk about that in a second. So the daily page, and I've opened it to a blank one so I can show you exactly how my day planning or my daily use of this notebook goes. And it's really quite simple. Today is March 10th. I write March 10, 2026, and I underline it with a little box, and that's it. That's my entire system. I write the date, I put a box around it, and then everything after that is free form. I can write notes, I can draw images, I can have pros and cons list, I can do flowcharts, I can do whatever I want on this page. But because I don't have tables and lines that I have to draw in every day or every week, I can freeform here, and it makes it so much less stressful to go in and do this every day because I don't feel like I have to conform to some system. And so I can write, had fun recording Obsidian video, and then I can draw the same diagram, and it doesn't matter what goes in here. And I force myself to believe that it doesn't matter how this is structured, because the less pressure I put on the structure and making it beautiful and making it some kind of fancy system, the more likely I am to actually use this, because there's no stress, there's no anxiety around actually using the system, which helps me use the journal to actually get my stress and anxiety out onto the page and help myself declutter my brain and be able to go about my daily life a little bit more easily. Now, the system itself is very simple, or at least I think it's very simple, but there is a little bit of nuance in order to get to the point of finding daily utility in having a journal. And I found for myself, I've been doing this for about 6 months, I have a couple of rules for myself. First of all, I don't need to write in it every day. That is rule number one. Don't force yourself to write in it every day, because that will just add undue stress. I remind myself to write in it every day. I started the first a few months having a daily reminder on my phone that popped up every evening at like 7 o'clock to say write in the journal. But before I even started doing this every day, I told myself that I shouldn't force it. Because if I force it, then I am going to regret. I'm going to feel stressed. I'm going to feel pressured into doing it when maybe I don't want to do it, or maybe I don't have anything useful to write. Some people in journaling will say, just do it anyways. Just force yourself to write something and you'll get into the habit of it. I tried that. It did not work for me. And I found that reminding myself every day is good, but forcing myself to actually write every day is no good. And I found myself thinking, when I got that reminder, oh, I do actually have something that I want to write down. And so I would feel good about opening the journal and writing a couple of sentences or paragraphs. And then on other days I'd be like, you know what? No, I feel fine. I don't really feel the need to empty my brain because I don't feel really full in the head right now. Haha. And so I just wouldn't. So, start with phone reminders, because it does really help to build the habit. But don't feel like you have to actually open the book and write every single time. You should, keep it top of mind. You should be sure that you are giving yourself the opportunity every day to write in the notebook, but don't force it. And then the last thing I'll say is don't bother with expensive notebooks or pens. This is a trap. There's no point in wasting a bunch of money on an expensive notebook or an expensive pen. Go to your local bookstore, go to your local dollar store. It doesn't matter. Grab something that you will feel excited about writing in. If that costs $5, if that costs $2, great. If it costs $40, that's fine. I wouldn't blow more than, say, $40 or $50 on your first setup. The first 2 times that I tried doing this, I went and bought, $40, $50 notebooks and really nice pens. and then I abandoned it after a couple of weeks. But I found that by starting with a less expensive journal and buying $2-3 pens from Staples, that it put less pressure on things, and I wasn't worried about, quote unquote, wasting pages and doing freeform stuff like this, because I didn't want to waste the beautiful paper or whatever it is. This is a slightly nicer notebook because I filled up the first notebook that I bought and then went to a slightly nicer one. This is still only about $35, so it's not breaking the bank or anything, but it is slightly nicer. It is dot grid, and it does have, the nice bookmarks and the nice pen holder and stuff like that. So I do really enjoy this. I've been using this particular book for about 3 months, and it just works for me, and it's a low pressure, low expectation way of approaching journaling that has worked really well for me. And by combining it with the digital system, I can have a place where I do my structured, more important / more, time sensitive work. And then I have a place where I can, fill it up with my full brain when I need to, get the feelings out on the page, deal with stress, deal with anxiety, deal with busy adult life, but also exciting ideas and cool concepts and things that I want to explore in the future, or things that I want to try, or things that I want to experience with my family or with my friends, or a new hobby or whatever it might be. All those things can go in here, but just keep it unstructured, keep it low stress, and don't force yourself to write every day, because you're just gonna resent yourself for forcing it. At least that's how my brain works. All right, so wrapping up the facts versus feelings information system. This is something that's been working for me, like I said, for a couple of months. I can reliably do everything I need for my job, for busy adult hectic life, and then have somewhere freeform to go and dump all of that at the end of a long day, or when I'm feeling like my head is too full to function. I can empty my brain somewhere productive and really work through the things that are happening in life, because there's always too much going on in life. So by having a digital system that is there when you need it and has enough structure to get you through your job or your busy day, and always have the reference and the tasks and the lists that you need, but also have a unstructured and kind of almost more fun place to let your brain wander and just kind of flow out all of the negative, or record some exciting possible stuff. This just works for me. So facts versus feelings, structured versus unstructured, digital versus analog, whatever you want to call it. I think it works pretty well. Let me know down in the comments how you handle your information system. How do you balance digital versus analog? Do you prefer one or the other? Do you combine both together? Is this something that you've even really thought about much in the past? Does your life or your job just not necessitate any of these things? Just let me know. I'm always interested in these kinds of things. Information system, knowledge bases, all of these apps and techniques, and people who do really fancy journals. I love all of it. This is just what works best for me. So thank you very much for watching, and hit that button down below if you like what you've seen. I am posting a new video every week. I am trying to grow the channel, and more than anything, I hope you stay ready, get set, and go enjoy your life. Cheers.